In this video, I will be looking at the different techniques of stop motion animation and the development from early animation to what we see today in television and cinema. We will begin by looking at some of the early stop motion animators, what they contributed towards the development of stop motion, and some of their work. The first people I'm going to look at is the Lumiere brothers. They are internationally recognised for devising an early stop motion picture camera and projector. However, they also developed the kinetoscope, which was initially made by Thomas Edison in 1889. When presented the kinetoscope by one of Edison's concessionaires, they aimed towards adjusting the limitations Edison had with the product. They worked towards making the kinetoscope lighter and smaller and looked at manipulating it so that more than one person could view a film at a time. They also managed to change the 48 frames per second frame rate to 16 frames per second, meaning they did not have to use as much film when running the production. This refers to the number of images that are displayed in a second. This is measured in frames per second. The frame rate reflects how fast the images flicker on and off. The faster they go, the more realistic and visually accurate the motion picture will seem. The standard frame rate is 24 frames per second. This was concluded in 1972 and has stayed this way since. In television, the standard frame rate is 30 frames per second. The human brain is able to process a minimum of 16 frames per second. However, the more shots per second in a production, the better quality the production seems, because the slower the object is moved for each shot, the more the sequence will flow when the shots are put together and made into a motion picture. This resulted in a much greater understanding of how many frames were needed in order to create a more advanced continuous image. They then went on to create their own motion picture camera called the cinematograph and produce some short films. Another recognisable pioneer is Hungarian filmmaker George Pal. Pal was one of the first stop motion animators known for creating an animated series called The Puppetoons. These were popular because instead of using models made out of clay, he used replacement animation. This is where different parts of the model are carved and then replaced, creating the continuous movement illusion. As a result, this began to change the way people viewed the movement of the models, as this was before 3D had been seen in stop motion, therefore massively contributing towards the development of persistence of vision. This is where the human brain is only capable of processing movement of up to 10 to 12 images at a time per second. This will also retain an individual image for up to a 15th of a second. If another image replaces this during this time, it will create the illusion of continuity. Persistence of vision has changed over time, and we now have a better understanding of just how many images the brain is able to process in a second, meaning that the quality of the continuous image has drastically improved. Pal then went on to discover unused scripts for the film War of the Worlds whilst working with Paramount Pictures and turned it into his own movie. The last pioneer I'm going to look at is William Horner. He invented the zoetrope in 1834. This was an improvement on the earlier phenakitoscope and creates the illusion of action from a rapid succession. This then led to the invention of the praxinoscope, which allowed animation to be viewed simpler. The animation inside the zoetrope was easier to see because of the small slits inside that allow people to look through. This gave a better effect than the phenakitoscope. This device is still used today. Now we will look at some of the early developers for stop motion animation. Lotte Reiniger was a German filmmaker who created animations using wire and card made by hand. She created the first animated pictures called The Adventures of Prince Ahmed in 1926. Her work towards developing stop motion animation involved creating models made out of wood, designed to resemble small rodents for The Pied Piper of Hamelin by Paul Wegener. This developed on George Pal's work because it was creating different and more effective ways of using models. She experimented with frame rates in order to discover that the smoother the frame rate, the quicker the wooden models appeared to move. She also used the stop frame techniques to look as if the rodents were also moving around and not just in straight lines. Although the wooden models were fairly simplistic, they were easily more lifelike. Stop frame animation is created using a single frame at a time using 3D objects, moving them very gradually between the different frames. Once all the shots are taken and put together with a fast speed, it produces an illusion of movement. Stop frame has developed as in the early stages, only one object was moved at a time, but in today's age you can move more than one object in a frame. Another well-known developer is Ray Harryhausen. He was an American filmmaker who began his career by working with George Pal on his Puppetoon series. Alongside Willis O'Brien, another famous developer, he gave films such as King Kong, Mighty Joe Young, etc., the stop-motion creatures seen in these films. He used a technique called Dynamation, which used split screen alongside rear projection. This allowed Harryhausen to animate a model directly in front of the screen that was showing a clip of a real-life actor, creating the illusion of close interaction between the two. The use of this technique was used in many later films to create the illusion that a real actor and the model were really next to each other, and could have fights and what appeared to be physical contact. This massively increased the movement of models technique. Here are some examples of Harryhausen's work. All of these techniques I have mentioned are still seen in today's stop-motion animation. The Quay brothers are two identical twins born in America who moved to England in 1969 in order to study illustration at the Royal College of Art in London. Their first short films were damaged and therefore do not exist anymore. However, they are best known for their development of stop-motion animation in order to create short stop-motion films that appeared in the late 70s. Most of their animations featured puppets and focused on a darker approach to animated cinema. Their best known work is Street of Crocodiles, created in 1886, which perfectly examples their experimentation with both dynamism and kinetic effects to an advanced level. Probably the most famous stop-motion animator in today's society is Tim Burton. He studies at California Institute of Arts in an animation degree. He worked at Disney for under a year before going independent to produce many extremely well-known stop-motion films, including The Nightmare Before Christmas, which took 3 years to make, as this film used 227 puppets that had been individually handmade. The main character had over 400 different heads in order to cover every single facial expression he had, and so that his mouth would change depending on the words he was saying. This massively advanced the movement of models and set the bar for attention to detail very high. The movement of models refers to the way in which people will move the objects in their motion pictures in order to make up the sequence. For example, in the production of the first King Kong stop-motion animation in 1933, the movements of the model are extremely fixed and have little flowing movement. Nowadays, in the 1976 version of King Kong, you can see that the movement flows much better, with the movement of the model looking much more realistic and more like a continuous sequence. Burton used a frame rate of 24 stop-motion moves per second that resulted in the look of complete continuous movement. Tim Burton also specialises on the darker side of stop-motion animation, much like the Quay brothers. However, stop-motion animation is also used in many other genres, including channel idents. For example, the E4 advertisements use stop-motion animation of many different varieties, however most are very wacky and alternative. TV animation such as Shaun the Sheep is very popular with kids today and has been ongoing since 2007 on CBBC. Also, the film industry is constantly producing stop-motion animation feature films, with Trolls that came out earlier this year, with an incredible cast behind it, including Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick. Animation films in this day and age is mainly aimed at children. This is because the bright colours and interesting characters help really small children learn, and is also entertaining for younger children as they understand the simplistic storylines. Companies often use stop motion animation to advertise their products on the television, most recently the Sainsbury's advertisement. However, a less common stop motion animation genre is music videos. However, you do still see the technique used for smaller artists such as Keena Grannis and Oren Levy.